Hello, everyone, and welcome to This Week in Hospitality Marketing. Used to be Hospitality Digital Marketing, live show number 193. Yes, we took digital out of it because, after all, digital is just a component of marketing. And through our topics and discussions over these past 4.5 years, it is abundantly clear that we do not need to make that distinction anymore as to digital marketing in comparison to marketing because it is all an integrated process. Thank you for letting me be on my soapbox. My name is Lauren Gray. I'm one of your hosts today. Right now, currently your only host. Hopefully, I'll be joined by my compatriots in crime, people like Robert Cole, who curated our topics of news today, Mr. Edward St. Ange and his fan base of thousands, Mr. Stuart Butler with Fuel Travel, and Holly Zoba, the mysterious, mostly elusive, and here too rare to be seen sales influencer, host and guide and instructor. Um, with that, I'd like to go over and say thank you for all those who are joining us on our affiliate broadcastings. We'd like to especially thank and welcome those who are watching us on HS
to the kinds of super apps you see, to what a Tencent is, to what a WeChat is. The big difference that exists today, I'm not saying it would never happen. In fact, I would be surprised if it didn't happen. But I think the big difference that you see today is that, there are a lot of things to do. You actually leave Facebook. For people who've not experienced things like Sinawiba or WeChat or one of those kinds of things, the better analogy that I see to it is 1995 AOL, right? Yeah. For many users in Asia and in various countries, if you're talking Line in Korea, if you're talking things along those lines, there's no reason ever to leave that app.
Right.
And we don't really have that here at the moment. I would think Google's ecosystem probably comes as close to it as we've seen. And Facebook, for some people, I think is that. But most people go into Facebook because there's something they're looking to do. They want to post a status or they want to see what's going on with their friends or things like that. And it certainly has the potential to become that, maybe. But there's a lot of things that would have to happen before one of those things becomes the new AOL in the way that AOL was, 20 years ago here, right? And I do think the trend is towards, you've heard me say this many, many, many times. I've referenced that book by Hal Varian and Carl Shapiro lots of times on the show about, the super aggregators that you can either be the biggest thing or you can be very niche. So certainly the trend is towards aggregation over time. Mm-hmm. But I think there's a ways to go before we have a true super app in the sense that you see it in China.
I think for the United States, it's going to require a change of device evolution.
Yeah.
Because you have so many parties that have hit a level of scale that their user base is going to keep them in their day. I think it will take a morphing of how we consume the internet.
Yeah,
device-wise, in order to really sprout an entrenched super app.
Well, and I think what's really interesting about that. Sorry, Lauren. One quick point, and then I'll certainly let you say what you were going to say. But one quick point on that is that's actually why Apple has had so many problems in China specifically over the years. It's because when their phone is the latest, greatest, coolest, bestest phone they've come out with, they sell a lot of them. But when, the Galaxy is the coolest phone or the Pixel is the coolest phone, people move seamlessly across phones because they don't really care about the phone. As long as it runs, WeChat or things along those lines, the platform underneath does not matter. And that's definitely not a thing we see here.
Both sides are like Android and Apple are having a hard time sucking other cultures into the ecosystem.
Right.
It's very hard to leave either ecosystem once you've gone to multiple services in it. So if you're using Google Play, Google's News, any of that, it's hard to move to Apple, which has competitive services, but they're different enough that it creates friction.
And if you're in China, nobody cares because as long as I got WeChat, I don't care. Doesn't matter.
Right.
No, that goes to that point. I play a video in most of my presentations about where we are in the sense of technology, and I play it from the New York Times, and I'll put the link in the show notes. And it's a great 6-minute video showing the dominance of WeChat, of how it's being used. And they give the example of, somebody that has a dirty dog, and so they get a dog cleaner, and the dog cleaner comes over and cleans the dog, and then you post something nice, somebody sees it, comments on it, they want to hire the dog person, and they go through the whole process how nobody leaves the app in the entire process. Everything is a part of the app, from giving money to paying for and investing and going to a restaurant that has no servers because there is no need. WeChat controls, you've ordered the food, you pay for the food's delivered when you arrive. It's all controlled in it. And then it talks about how the Chinese government has all that information. All of that is in one central source. And anybody that has made it over to China and has ever loaded WeChat over there, it is stunning. The encompass, like you're pointing out, this ecosystem of its existence is amazing. As the video points out, it's like having Facebook, Google, Twitter, everything all in one entity.
Yeah,
all that information in one source,
and that's frightening.
Now, of course, to go back to the article, I still think there's a really key point here that we need to think about from a hotel perspective of how Google Maps suddenly has become this really interesting distribution opportunity, right? I mean, in terms of what Google's doing with it, it gets really interesting. And if I were Booking or Expedia, I probably sat up and took notice in terms of how Google Maps works now in terms of selling hotels.
And
Mhm.
well,
How long
and
ago
it's actually
did you do
always
that?
been an interesting opportunity.
Oh, sure,
for
sure.
hotels. Anyone who has gone all in on Google Maps uses it the way Google envisions it to ultimately end up, which is it's a great way. It's a much better form of search when you're in a location and you're open and looking.
Right.
I use it quite a bit for that purpose, and it's also great for complex trip planning. It's a really good infrastructure. The big difference, though, and I was saying this before you all came on, is Google's very smart. They have it set up to be the infrastructure, and so they're building more sexy endpoints and tying endpoints together. But still, the value in Google Maps is the plumbing play. And I was starting to say that as devices change, and Tim and Robert who wear glasses, as your glasses turn smart and give you AR, that is all going to be fed through infrastructure plays like Google Maps and Apple Maps. And that's where the play is going to come, because it has location tied to the information.
Yeah.
And it can handle understanding your location versus the locations around you, plus the search term. You're going to see those infrastructures become really, really entrenched.
Yeah.
Well,
The
even
power
now,
of near me, right?
Yeah.
That's the big one.
yeah,
Right.
I mean, even
And
now,
you don't
Google-
have to be there. You say, I want the best. Literally, you come down and say, I want the best hotel for me in Times Square, right? For this meeting or something. And again, if you're
Right.
Google and you've got Google, if it's pulling things out of your calendar, right? It knows where your appointments are, that sort of thing. It goes, oh, well, here's the perfect spot, because then, I don't know what it's looking at. You're
because it
trying to
also
save
knows where
money
everybody else that you
or
want to
save
meet.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's hey, I found a 4-star hotel. It's got 5 TripAdvisor circles, and it's an extraordinarily good price for this place.
Actually, they're not going to care about the TripAdvisor circles, by the way. But
well, or whatever,
Because the Google
whatever.
reviews.
The Google reviews.
Trust
But yeah,
You-
sure, we'll
the
go with
Trust You
TripAdvisor for now.
aggregation, right?
Right.
Well, no, but Trust You pulls all that stuff in.
Right.
So,
Right.
but
One thing I want to point out too is like on Google, for
amazing.
Google Maps in particular, I'm a fan of taking 360 pictures whenever I'm at places that I think that are worthy of taking pictures of, and I'm getting a notification from Google. I'm coming up to my 2 millionth viewer, 2 million my pictures, 2 millionth person.
So
will be
soon you will be the famous Lauren Gray.
No,
Exactly.
she probably has like 6 million pictures. But the idea of it is that as I contribute to Google Maps, right? Because as soon as you do a 360, I tell clients all the time, take your 360 shots and do it in this platform, and it puts it in Google Maps, and people see them. Thousands of people see the picture you just took, and it's free. So if you do these things, it is. And I take a lot of these 360s, and now it's like, congratulations, you're levels. I'm almost at level 7 local guide. I'm level 6, close to level 7, and it's like you're almost to your 2 millionth viewer. Keep it going, and I'm like, yay! I give you free content.
Yay!
So basically, we shouldn't be worried about Google. We should be worried about Lauren.
Actually, you should be worried about Robert, because Robert's the vindictive type, and his 360s. Don't
the
anger.
Power of gamification, and narcissism drive a lot of.
Absolutely.
So Robert
one
has brought in gamification of Thrones.
Yes.
By the way,
You play or you die.
for all those who might not know Jennifer in the Corner, she is Ed St. Ange's 2 millionth
So
person. will
soon
be
you will be the famous Lauren Gray.
No,
Exactly.
she probably has like 6 million pictures. But no, but the idea of it is that as I contribute to Google Maps, because as soon as you do a 360, I tell clients all the time, take your 360 shots and do it in this platform, and it puts it in Google Maps, and people see them. Thousands of people see the picture you just took, and it's free. So if you do these things, it is. And I take a lot of these 360s, and now it's like, yeah, congratulations, you're levels. I'm almost at level 7 local guide. I'm level 6, close to level 7, and it's like you're almost to your 2 millionth viewer. Keep it going, and I'm like, yay! I give you free content.
Yay!
So basically, we shouldn't be worried about Google. We should be worried about Lauren.
Actually, you should be worried about Robert, because Robert's the vindictive type, and his 360s. Don't
the
anger.
Power of gamification, and narcissism drive a lot of.
Absolutely.
So Robert
Robert
has brought in gamification of Thrones.
Yes.
By the way,
You play or you die.
for all those who might not know Jennifer in the corner, she is Ed St. Ange's.
Quickly then. AAA rate,
Yeah.
183. And Google member rate, 173. So it's dramatically lower than the 199. Hyatt Place, same thing. Bar, 169. Member rate, 159. So that's okay. AAA rate, 153. Google member rate, 149.
Why? Ed and I always get on the same soapbox when this one comes up.
AAA, I just don't get it.
Oh my goodness!
And parity with AARP. Remember that one too. So
I mean,
I'm going to change head.
At least
AARP probably drives actual new customers.
Yeah, and you can tell that someone's not an AARP member when they're checking in if they're in their 30s. At least because no one's asking for the card.
Right.
But you can at least with an AARP be like, hey, you can't stay for this.
Right.
But I still don't understand it. I don't understand it at all. It's crazy.
Yeah, it had a ton of value once upon a time, and I don't know that it has any value at all today.
No, because the Motor Club used to be great for towing and all of that. Every car you buy comes with that now.
Right. And so do most car insurance. If you don't have it from your car insurance does.
So do most of your credit cards. And I mean, you have so much towing available to you through many different things that's no longer the key benefit. But the hotel industry, it's like I always say, nothing dies in travel.
Yeah. Ever. One thing that didn't make our news list, but just since it's a Google topic right now, G Suite, for those who run their businesses through Google Suite, has just now opened up the ability to have Google Voice for all as a standard service offering to all your levels of business for Google. So you can, if you're using G Suite now, have individual phone numbers to each of your staff members or team members for only $10 a head. And that comes with all the Google Voice stuff that's available. And it's like, dang, and that's including international numbers too, international numbers and what have you.
Cool.
So, you know, a lot of these phone service provider things now all of a sudden are going, uh-oh, wait a minute. The gorilla has stepped into my room.
Yeah. You know, speaking of gorillas stepping into your room and things you need to be prepared for, this is fantastic. Robert's mouth is moving, but we can't hear it.
And he can hear us.
Any of you catch the recent shift that Microsoft and Sony have done with their gaming consoles? They've announced in the last week that their gaming consoles are going without media anymore. No more discs.
Oh, sure.
So you know who's really negatively impacted by that, and it's a very large company. It's a company called GameStop.
Oh yeah, sure.
Because there's now no more reason,
Sure.
and they both. This was a knee-jerk reaction. They've been prepared for it for a long time. Nintendo on the Switch sells games. You can get them either in media form or you can just download them to the Switch. Sony and Microsoft just have been holding off updating their consoles, but it was when Google announced their move into gaming and that platform. That is what's really triggered this. And it's amazing because a really interesting article I was reading about it, was kind of pointing out that, this should have been done in 2013. Now it's going to be a problem for both Sony and Microsoft because they make a lot of money off those consoles, quite a bit, because all they really are slightly outdated, purpose-built computers that, every time they come out, they're getting them sold as fast as they can make them.
Well, I'm waiting for them to finally do what Roku and everybody else is. Well, Roku, not everybody else. Roku in particular has done is just says, "Hey, Mr. TV producer Samsung, let's just get together here and let's skip the extra box and let's make it all part of one integrated unit." Because
but that still doesn't execute well. I literally had to buy a TV this week for the first time in years, and I bought a Samsung. And the chipset that they put in it is so slow.
Well, no, that's what I'm saying. There would have to be a serious hardware collaboration thing. But I got a Roku DCL TV or TCL TV, and I stopped using my Apple. The interface is much nicer. It's all in one thing. It's 4K. It's good stuff. It's affordable TV, and it's like, I mean, this is nice because then I don't, the wires hanging on the bottom of the boxes and all this. It just I don't have to worry about it anymore. I mean, my Apple TV, I have it slapped on the back of the TV. And I don't even use it anymore.
Yeah.
So I can see where eventually the ability to put this stuff in, now that the last vestige of why I have to have a separate box to put a disc in goes away, and just say, let's build better chipsets and better hardware into these TVs and have it as a one, because that is the last vestige. I mean, I have Samsung smart things because I backed the wrong horse. I had a security system from Lowe's for 6 years. And then January, they said, hey, we're just stopping our service and we'll give you a refund for the stuff that doesn't work with other platforms. I'm like, thank you, Betamax.
Thanks, Divx.
Divx. Oh my God, Divx.
So I go over and I have to buy all these stuff, and they make it all talk to each other, and they don't all talk to each other. They promise, but they don't deliver on stuff.
So
but anyway,
sorry. So you went the way of Samsung?
Well, it was the only transition that half of my stuff that I
Did
spent
you
money
read
on
their
was to work.
user agreement?
Is there one that says other than giving up your soul and signing in blood? Is there another one that I missed?
That they spy on you. They openly admit it in their user.
Right.
Yeah, it's
And I actually read it.
TV that watches you.
Yeah,
Right.
I actually read it, because I bought the Samsung TV. And what's interesting is, unlike Apple and unlike Android, you can say no to certain aspects of their user agreement. They actually have it set up, and it keeps it all shut down.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow.
As far as you know.
So far, you beat me to it, Robert.
Wow. Yeah. Then they're going to be in some serious hot water, because I knowingly did not agree to specific aspects of their user agreement, and it allowed me to continue using the device. So that's lawsuit material. Anyways,
Lauren must have a barista in his office there in his studio. You can see him gesture with the coffee cup. Somebody's delivering beverage. Probably
wait until the frothy
beverages
cup of coffee comes back. Yeah, no, I begged Renee. It's like, please,
Wow.
I can't get up.
TV that watches you.
yeah,
Right.
I actually read it, because I bought the Samsung TV. And what's interesting is, unlike Apple and unlike Android, you can say no to certain aspects of their user agreement. They actually have it set up, and it keeps it all shut down.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow.
As far as you know.
So far, you beat me to it, Robert.
Well,
Yeah.
then they're going to be in some serious hot water, because
Right,
I
right.
knowingly did not agree to specific aspects of their user agreement, and it allowed me to continue using the device. So that's lawsuit material. Anyways,
Lauren must have a barista in his office there in his studio. You can see him gesture with the coffee cup. Somebody's delivering beverage. Probably
Wait until the
hot
frothy
beverages
cup of
for
coffee
him.
comes back. Yeah, no, I begged Renee. It's like, please,
Wow.
I can't get up.
He that watches you.
yeah,
Right.
I actually read it, because I bought the Samsung TV, and what's interesting is, unlike Apple and unlike Android, you can say no to certain aspects of their user agreement. They actually have it set
Yeah,
up,
there
and
is,
it keeps it all shut down.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow.
As far as you know.
So far, you beat me to it, Robert.
Well,
Yeah.
then they're going to be in some serious hot water, because
Right,
I
right.
knowingly did not agree to specific aspects of their user agreement, and it allowed me to continue using the device. So that's lawsuit material. Anyways,
Lauren must have a barista in his office there in his studio. You can see him gesture with the coffee cup. Somebody's delivering beverage. Probably
Wait until
hot
the frothy
beverages
cup of
for
coffee
him.
comes back. Yeah, no, I begged Renee. It's like, please,
Wow.
I can't get up.
He that watches you.
yeah,
Right.
I actually read it, because I bought the Samsung TV, and what's interesting is, unlike Apple and unlike Android, you can say no to certain aspects of their user agreement. They actually have it set
Yeah,
up,
there
and
is,
it keeps it all shut down.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow.
As far as you know.
So far, you beat me to it, Robert.
Well,
Yeah.
then they're going to be in some serious hot water, because
Right,
I
right.
knowingly did not agree to specific aspects of their user agreement, and it allowed me to continue using the device. So that's lawsuit material. Anyways,
Lauren must have a barista in his office there in his studio. You can see him gesture with the coffee cup. Somebody's delivering beverage. Probably
Wait until
hot
the frothy
beverages
cup of
for
coffee
him.
comes back. Yeah, no, I begged Renee. It's like, please,
Wow.
I can't get up.
He that watches you.
yeah,
Right.
I actually read it, because I bought the Samsung TV, and what's interesting is, unlike Apple and unlike Android, you can say no to certain aspects of their user agreement. They actually have it set
Yeah,
up,
there
and it keeps it all shut down.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow.
As far as you know.
So far, you beat me to it, Robert.
Well,
Yeah.
then they're going to be in some serious hot water, because
Right,
I
right.
knowingly did not agree to specific aspects of their user agreement, and it allowed me to continue using the device. So that's lawsuit material. Anyways,
Lauren must have a barista in his office there in his studio. You can see him gesture with the coffee cup. Somebody's delivering beverage. Probably
Wait until
hot
the frothy
beverages
cup of
for
coffee
him.
comes back. Yeah, no, I begged Renee. It's like, please,
Wow.
I can't get up.
He that watches you.
yeah,
Right.
I actually read it, because I bought the Samsung TV, and what's interesting is, unlike Apple and unlike Android, you can say no to certain aspects of their user agreement. They actually have it set
Yeah,
up, and it keeps it all shut down.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow.
As far as you know.
So far, you beat to it, Robert.
Well,
Yeah.
then they're going to be in some serious hot water, because
Right,
I
right.
knowingly did not agree to specific aspects of their user agreement, and it allowed me to continue using the device. So that's lawsuit material. Anyways,
Lauren must have a barista in his office there in his studio. You can see him gesture with the coffee cup. Somebody's delivering beverage. Probably
Wait until
hot
the frothy
beverages
cup of
for
coffee
him.
comes back. Yeah, no, I begged Renee. It's like, please,
Wow.
I can't get up.
He that watches you.
yeah,
Right.
I actually read it, because I bought the Samsung TV, and what's interesting is, unlike Apple and unlike Android, bought the Samsung TV, and what's interesting is, unlike Apple and unlike Android, tell developers and owners are very much aware of. I think it's good to see them kind of firing some shots, because they've been very quiet in the U.S. for quite some time.
Well, and
Well, that was the HNA acquisition.
Exactly.
And
It's a lot of it had to do with the
and then
ownership
the divestiture.
Yeah.
stuff. Right.
Firing some shots, because they've been very quiet in the U.S. for quite some time.
Well, and
Well, that was the HNA acquisition.
Exactly.
And
It's a lot of it
in the U.S. for
Well,
quite some time.
Well, and
well, that was the HNA acquisition.
Exactly.
And
It's a lot of it
in the U.S. for
Well,
quite some time.
Well, and
well, that was the HNA acquisition.
Exactly.
And
It's a lot of it
in the U.S. for
Well,
quite some time.
Well, and
well, that was the HNA acquisition.
Exactly.
And
It's a lot of it
in the U.S. for
Well,
quite some time.
Well, and
well, that was the HNA acquisition.
Exactly. It's a lot of it
in the U.S. for
Well,
quite some time.
Well, and
well, that was the HNA acquisition.
Exactly. It's a lot of it
in the U.S. for
Well,
quite some time.
Well, and
well, that was the HNA acquisition.
Exactly. It's a lot of it
in the U.S. for quite some time.
Well, and
well, that was the HNA acquisition.
Exactly. It's a lot of it
in the U.S. for quite some time.
the quality standards that they have to meet to be an OYO are not onerous by the standards of, would be really, really limited by the standards of North America, or more mature hotel environments, right? Branded hotel environments and like Western Europe, places like that. So, I mean, yes, to answer your question, think about OYO. It's funny that they got invested by. OYO is Airbnb for innkeepers, right? That's all it is. That's all it is, right? It's an easy way to get your inventory out in front of people and hang a little flag and be done.
It's the play. The OYO is going for scale. And it's the counterplay to like what Margaritaville and Hard Rock are doing with their new select service brands that will be their volume brands. So Hard Rock's got Reverb, and I forget the name of the Margaritaville one.
Yeah, I was going to ask you. I didn't know the Margarita was going on a secondary. I thought they were still keeping with their
they announced it. Maybe a month ago. But yeah, they're going to have a select
Parrot Head Palaces. I don't know.
Exactly.
Hey, don't knock up.
Oh no, that's the upscale brand. I'm sorry, I'm confused.
Well, no, I mean a legitimate Margaritaville hotel is very expensive to build because so they're so you have these boutique brands taking a boutique stab at select service, and now you have OYO scooping up the innkeepers, if you will. They're two different plays on the same playbook. Hard Rock knows they need to scale, and they're not going to be able to build giant casinos everywhere. And that's the Hard Rock brand. So what do? They come up with Reverb, and it's flipped. What's interesting about Hard Rock's about the music and the artist and all of that. Reverb is about the listener and the experience that you as the person who enjoys music, which I think is an interesting positioning for sure.
Well, and I think if you look at OYO, I'm always reminded of like what developers always used to tell, software developers always used to tell you, right? Or project managers and the like. And I've used the line myself many times where, you have your choice of fast, cheap, and good, and you get to pick any two.
Yep.
Right? And so what they're taking is fast and cheap.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
And they're probably good, and they're probably good enough,
that,
right? And they're probably good enough when the alternative is, some and I feel bad saying this because we don't really know the details of all of the inns that they brought in, but some little inn that might have been a little shoddy or a little run down or in need of some upgrades and things along those lines, or in all seriousness, some need of professionalism, right? I own an inn because I own an inn, not because I actually wanted to be an innkeeper or learn how to be an innkeeper. So they're providing some standards and some training and things like that to help these people be more effective. Yeah. But it's basically Airbnb for innkeepers. I mean, it's really straightforward. I actually thought that the Airbnb investment in Lyric was really interesting in that regard.
Yeah.
Because again, it's, what is a hotel, I will admit I'm quoting my own tweet from this morning, but I was like, hey, Siri, what is a hotel anymore? Right?
Right.
And that's kind of what they're doing. They're saying,
and
hey,
because
let's take
Siri's
some
not
space.
that
And Airbnb.
I'm sorry, Tim. I don't understand the question.
Well, I was going to say Alexa, but we don't get the answer right either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
but Google Assistant would.
Well, sure, but
only after telling on you.
Well, that's exactly it.
Google Assistant would go, Tim, you've been to the following 4 hotels within the last 2 weeks. You know what
Exactly. But I mean,
no,
I think that's
probably goes and says, Tammy says not to give you silly answers anymore.
but it is this thing of, what we have historically thought of as a hotel is starting to change a little bit, right? I mean, the range of accommodations. It's lodging and accommodations, right? It's a different reality that is going to start to shape the industry in a different way.
It's
and
funny.
Look at what Airbnb is doing now. Airbnb is covering the bit because again, their branding or the way they identify is belong anywhere, right?
Yeah,
so it's like, hey, we've got the gamut here, and again, it's from the beginning, how do you fit that traveler on that particular itinerary and that need at that little time slice of their life to the best place that's perfectly suited to what they need. Right.
Well, and I think there's another piece to this, and I think it applies to OYO. I think it applies to Airbnb. I think it applies to what we were just talking about with Radisson. What digital has done that's really fascinating, right, is it's changed the nature of trust a lot, right? It used to be that you had to have a brand. Why did McDonald's get big? Why did Marriott get big? Why did Super 8 get big, right? Was because if the alternative was some shoddy little diner that you didn't know what you were going to get, or some little inn that you didn't know what you were going to get, that doesn't exist
anymore.
Right. But it was they solved a very real problem in 1956, in 1965. You're driving across the country.
And consistency.
And know what you were going to get, or some little inn that you didn't know what you were going to get. That
doesn't exist anymore.
Right. But it was they solved a very real problem in 1956, in 1965. You're driving across the country.
And consistency.
And know what you were going to get, or some little inn that you didn't know what you were going to get. That
doesn't exist anymore.
Right. But it was they solved a very real problem in 1956, in 1965. You're driving across the country.
And consistency.
And know what you were going to get, or some little inn that you didn't know what you were going to get. That
doesn't exist anymore.
Right. But it was they solved a very real problem in 1956, in 1965. You're driving across the country.
And consistency.
Know what you were going to get, or some little inn that you didn't know what you were going to get. That
doesn't exist anymore.
Right. But it was they solved a very real problem in 1956, in 1965. You're driving across the country.
And consistency.
Know what you were going to get, or some little inn that you didn't know what you were going to get. That
doesn't exist anymore.
Right. But it was they solved a very real problem in 1956, in 1965. You're driving across the country.
And consistency.
Know what you were going to get, or some little inn that you didn't know what you were going to get. That
doesn't exist anymore.
Right. But it was they solved a very real problem in 1956, in 1965. You're driving across the country.
And consistency.
Know what you were going to get. Solved a very real problem in 1956, in 1965.
And consistency.
Changing this thing of, what can I trust?
Right.
And unbelievably disruptive to entrenched players who, and Ed, I could not agree with you more. I know sometimes I'm like, I agree with you mostly except for this one little bit. But in this case, yeah, I think the brands are making it tougher for themselves in some ways because they're doubling down on this thing that's except for this one little bit. But in this case, yeah, I think the brands are making it tougher for themselves in some ways because they're doubling down on this thing that's not making it tougher for themselves in some ways because they're doubling down on this thing that's not making it tougher for themselves in some ways because they're doubling down on this thing that's not making it tougher for themselves in some ways because they're doubling down on this thing that's not making it tougher for themselves in some ways because they're doubling down on this thing that's not making it tougher for themselves in some ways because they're doubling down on this thing that's not.
So you
Right.
go, oh, that's a nice 4-star hotel with 4 circles and 666 reviews. And oh, look at the one down the list down there. So they're not only doing
Yeah,
it,
but
and before
it
they were
didn't
also
take
doing
that-
we guarantee it'll be one of 2.
Right, but
What?
it didn't take that before. Like when that cat got out of the bag was when they also had just a regular
Oh, yeah.
net rate program. Because you could just go see,
Right.
okay, I need a 4-star in this neighborhood.
Right.
What do they have for listed as 4 stars in the net rate program? Okay, great.
Yeah.
I
because they were able to
Right.
give you enough other details and enough things that said, here you go. That like the mystery meat hotel, of what the hell am I going
Right.
to end up at?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and you had to trust that you didn't say 4-star and they gave you a 1-star before. But
Right.
now
Right.
they've added enough information where you can definitively match exactly that. So they've blown away. And again, some of the hotels don't have it because their agreements say, hey, you can't do it. But for a lot of the hoteliers, they just have no idea that that's even happening. Right. And it's like,
Well, that's
and
all the
again,
more-
I stayed for when I spoke at the HTNG conference, I stayed at we're picking on Renaissance today. I'm sorry. It just happens to be. But the Renaissance and the Arts, Warehouse District of New Orleans, $97 a night, rate parity everywhere, $249. And you're like, oh, yeah, but the consumer side of me goes, you score, and the hotelier side of me weeps.
Mhm.
But the Renaissance and the Arts, Warehouse District of New Orleans, $97 a night, rate parity everywhere, $249. And you're like, oh, yeah, but the consumer side of me goes, you score, and the hotelier side of me weeps.
Mhm.
It's just, or the owner,
but
empathy
he
for
still
the
but he
owner
still
who
took
just-
the rate.
Of course
Yeah.
he did.
At the end
Well,
of the day,
and it's
he's
like,
still-
what the hell are you doing? This
And
thing's getting priced
add insult
below
to
the have a drink in their bar.
Oh,
So they got some
Oh,
ancillary
drink?
revenue out of it.
Oh
Hey,
my goodness!
oh,
Oh well,
during
God,
the
was-
manager's
it was an
drink hour.
well, there we go.
It was
They're gonna
an unsweetened iced tea, though.
they're gonna make budget for the quarter now.
Woo!
Anyway.
Got $2.95.
How about Peninsula? How about Peninsula hotels? The personalization thing. I mean, I've stayed with them before, in Chicago in particular, and this hardware thing that these. I don't understand it. Maybe that's probably the thing I'm getting stuck on. I love the concept of what they're trying to do about this, air purification thing and personalization. You can control the lights next to your table and stuff. But I am so anti.
That's not personalization.
No,
That's comfort.
No.
Well,
And
comfort,
Yeah.
but
this industry often like completely bastardizes personalization. Personalization should
Right.
not be, just your name on an email. It should not be
sure,
Right.
because I
It
really,
should
really
not
love
be-
when my name's on the TV screen.
basic comfort. Those
Right,
that's not
right.
personalization. Personalization is memory.
Right.
Memory of interactions that you've had with your customer, and then using that memory correctly to remove friction from that customer's future dealings with you. Now, that is personalization. Now, I'll say the stuff they're doing, it's super neat, but this is what brands do. When brands go, oh, we're getting a stodgy feedback. We just paid XYZ New York consulting company $250,000 for a PowerPoint presentation that told us consumer sentiment says this. How do we do that?
Hey, Tim Peter and Associates is a New Jersey.
Tim Peter and
company, Ed.
Associates would never do that to a hotel group.
Thank you, Ed. I appreciate that. Actually, we
Right.
always
Or
tell people,
million
we
or
always
PowerPoint. Which one is the
we-
name of it?
never
he would
never
for $500,000.
PowerPoint. We use Keynote.
Keynote. Yeah.
But actually, no, we always tell clients all the time, if this only ends up as a shelf help book, then we've done the wrong thing.
Right, or if you misapply the action, so
Right.
we're seen as not
Right.
appealing to the younger crowd as an
Right,
innovative brand. So what are we going to do? Well, let's go partner up with an incubator and let's run a contest for something neat that we may or may not use. I mean, this sounds like Marriott. I mean, this is
Right.
what Marriott does.
Right.
So now I will say, as someone who has that technology that they're putting in their lamps, if they put that in the lamps, fundamentally it will be a really nice experience
Right.
because you can tell the difference when you
Oh yeah.
use ozone in the air purification process. It makes the room smell really nice. I have
Which,
them.
by the way,
That's a 1980s economy hotel strategy. That's how they got all the smoke and everything out of the room. They had the little ozone thing.
Well,
It
okay.
goes boom,
I'm
boom,
not
boom.
I'm against the technology because nothing can take down a room out of service as an electrical or technology issue, a hardware issue. Because the room could be pristine, it could be clean, it could be everything. But if this consolidated phone integrated touchpad, thing on the side of the bed got yanked by the wrong guest and the wires frayed somewhere in the wall that nobody can find, that room's out of service. That's the problem I got with it. I go
Holy
back to the
crap.
original descriptions of
Lauren.
can I bring in the technology?
You're anti kitchen.
Yeah, I'm Lauren,
Listen.
I understand your point, and I disagree completely because the same is true for lamps, the same is true for TVs, the same is true for the HVAC, the same is true stuff.
Same
breaks,
is true for the
right?
idiots that hang their
No, if a lamp is broken, you take the lamp out.
the sprinklers.
And, yeah, but
What dummies have
same
been
with
doing
HVAC, right? Same with
Yeah, the
climate
sprinkler
control.
head.
I mean, the point here is that you don't do this unless you're prepared. I once met a guy. This is going to be a weird story. It's a weird tangent, but I once met a guy when I worked for leading hotels. One of our customers, and our customers were wealthy. These were not affluent people. These were wealthy people. And we were doing a focus group. We were doing a focus group of a kind. And he was talking about the fact that he was having to have one of the windows. He had a broken seal on a window in his jet, in his plane, right? And replacing the window because of the broken seal was like, and I don't quote me on this because I don't remember now, but it was like an $80,000 repair or something like that. And I will admit, I was, not cool enough that I kind of involuntarily gasped or something when I heard this, right? Because I was like 80 grand. Whoops, lights dropped. But I was kind of taken aback by this thing. And he said, no, it's really straightforward. He said, look, if you cannot deal with the idea of an $80,000 repair, you don't buy the jet, right?
Jet, yeah, exactly.
You get a jet card.
Right. Right. And the reality is Peninsula should only do this if they're prepared to deal with the
And they
operational issues, and they must be. Yeah, so I'm
And-
not too worried
and
about that.
To answer your other concern, Lauren, they're scaling down the room count of their
Right.
properties in the same breath
Right.
that they're looking to make them a bit more technically advanced. Well, that makes sense because they get a pretty good ADR. So
And- oh yeah, yeah. And-
Okay, I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why I have the opinion I have, because I literally, because of going to Chicago, going to Peninsula there, they had this bedside light and air conditioning control platform that was very innovative for its time, and it did not work.
Sure.
And they could not make it
yeah.
work, and they had no room to put me in. So I'm in a nice hotel. I still have to pay the rate. They gave me some discount to it. My TV could not be turned on. My lights could not be turned off, and the air could not be changed. And there was no place else for me to go.
Yeah, but
So-
Lauren, but the thing about this, first of all, you're absolutely right. That sucks. Okay, that's a crappy experience. Also, that is just underscores something we have talked about on this show again and again and again and again and again, which is you can have the best damn strategy in history, and if you can't execute, it's still gonna suck.
Yeah.
So the point here
Right.
isn't that they should do this. The point is that they need to be prepared to execute.
If
Because
you
if they're not,
I will
then
agree
this
with that.
strategy will fail.
They have a way of having the contingencies and the follow up in the back, like says, okay, let's take this all manual. We're terribly sorry, but the light switch will now work for you instead of the panel, and the TV can just be with a remote, or you walk up and change the dial because, hey, God dang, you're old enough. You used to be a kid. Do it for your dad anyway. You know.
But here's the thing. I'll say what I always say when we
Well-
talk about these types of widgets. If you want to do it right, it's bring your own device.
That's
Right,
what
right,
I'm just
right.
saying.
Right.
I
And
like
bring your own
the
device is going to be the ultimate end to
The
it.
ultimate personalization.
Right.
Right.
Well, and
Well,
the point that you
okay,
made
one-
before, Ed, that I think is really critical. I agree with everything you said. I would emphasize it slightly differently, right? Where you were talking about, it's their history and using that to create a great experience as you go forward. I would argue it's not just their history, it's whatever you know about them at any given point that anticipates what they need presently. Because there's times where their history is not relevant, there's times that their current behavior is more
Yeah,
relevant. There's
Like
right?
like we do in
But I
conversation.
think your point,
Pay
your
attention
point is spot
and react.
on. Right. Is what is it that they need and how effective are we at anticipating that need? That's really what personalization is. Because
Well,
it's about
let me give a-
anticipating that need and putting the right experience in front of them at the time they need it.
Allow me to add some nuance because I'm writing a paper on this for Focusrite. I break it into 3 categories. One is customization, right? So you see some sort of signal, like I always use the example on the show, 2 adults, 2 children, look, that could be a family. Maybe show some, some content that would be that. So that's kind of customizing. There's individualization, right? Where that is like, hey, maybe we don't know who you are, and we see Tim logging in from New Jersey, and we just have absolutely no background. We go, hey, we have a little section of the site that has guides. At this time of the year, let's show them Orlando, let's show them Barbados. I don't care, right? So based on the accumulated history of all the guests, the probability of what you want to show, that's kind of individual. And then there's personalization, and that's where I think we get into what Ed's saying. It's that history. Well, it's not just the history; it's they're sharing information about themselves. They've opted in to say, "Here's my stuff. You can use it." And then it's like, "Oh, now we know what you like and things." Then you can. That's the personalization, right? Not just, we found your name somehow for
No,
whatever.
correct.
But I think if you do that, the other thing with Peninsula, how many Peninsula hotels do you guys think there are around the world? Any guesses?
I used to know this. I don't remember. They were leading, so I used to know this. No, it's smaller than that.
Under. It's going to be smaller than under 20.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you said 120.
No,
I
said it's
apologize.
under 20.
Oh,
It's 12.
Yeah, I thought it was like 18.
They
so
are
less than I thought. Okay.
They can go to every major, city in the world, right? Every gateway city, and probably do quite well, right? If they develop.
Right.
So that's the same way when Sheikh Al Tweed went and invested in Fairmont. The number one thing that they looked at was there are only 6 Fairmont hotels. You're kidding. I thought there were like 20 of them. So
Right.
all of a sudden you get a product where people think there are more of them. They like, and all that's a huge opportunity. So I think Peninsula
yeah.
almost more than anybody else. I don't know, maybe Mandarin. They're more Mandarin Orientals and things like that. But Peninsula, great reputation. Not many of them, and boundless development opportunities. So if they do the personalization thing right, they can do some really cool
Well,
stuff.
and if they,
I mean, but there are a lot.
they ensure that they're featuring their AAA rate, they're definitely going to win.
Yeah, I think so.
I really
exactly.
hope,
If they can give people
Peninsula
a
doesn't have
$2
AAA rate.
a member rate of $2 off per night, let me tell you, then they're going to be on to
Yes.
something.
Yes.
Hey, Robert, I had a question that I didn't quite get the chance to read through on this the hotel magazine, because God knows I love a magazine that says you have to constantly resubscribe to get the article out
I know it's
or
so
log in.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, that does bother me.
it does. Like, come on, man! I just want to read whatever it is the content you're throwing out there. But what is this sharing space that they're talking about? I didn't get.
Ask people to do this. There are other companies. The most obvious one is what is now called the We Company, right? But if you think about We Work and We Live, I mean, it's the same idea. I actually worked with a company overseas. I'm not going to say who they are because I don't want to give away anything proprietary they're doing. But it's a very similar model conceptually where they're working with, using different spaces at different times of the day. And again, it goes back to what we were talking about with Peninsula. If you execute, it can work really well. It can be very, very effective. And it gets into some really interesting ideas about how you monetize your space most effectively. There's some tremendous growth opportunities there. One of the great stories of all time is when McDonald's started serving breakfast. The reason they did it was because they had a whole bunch of franchisees who said, we've got all this capital invested in this equipment,
I don't think he can hear us.
No,
Right.
it's not the technology variations; it's the user experience. It's
Right,
between
right.
it's between the earbuds and the floor.
Right.
Hey,
All right. Well,
Should we divert ourselves? Something,
we
just something.
stop making sense.
Stop making
We should
sense,
get
right?
back- We should get back to the.
Yeah. So
I saw
something-
them on that tour too.
But
Yeah.
back to a customization and to a branding thing again. Something interesting came in the news locally down here in Southwest Florida. There's a new development that's in an area of Florida that isn't destination bound. It's on the edge of things by Naples, Florida, and it's RV parks that are houses without the house. It's common space, pool, all the stuff. But then you pull this massive RV in, hook it up, and that's your living space.
They're called
And-
RV resorts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy. But if talk about fulfilling a
When you look
unique,
at the sophistication,
They've had them for a while. They're called campgrounds.
no.
No. Right.
This is way over there. Yeah,
they're
And there's-
basically they have the infrastructure of a hotel as well. Like as
Right.
from a tech stack perspective, it's really
Right.
interesting.
yeah. I thought that was crazy smart.
It's
I'm like,
way more interesting than just buying a bunch of Airstreams and putting them on a lot.
Right.
You know, it's
Absolutely.
an
when these
actual
guys park in, hook up, and all of a sudden they have this beautiful lanai and pool and jacuzzi. And
it's
outside
finally the end point, realizing that people are spending like $250,000 on these RVs. And in most cases, they're pulling into something that was really designed for, the family who's towing behind them a
My-
$5 camper.
My in-laws own a very nice RV. They are this market. I will tell you, this is. I don't understand this. I'm going to be very honest. This is my. I break down on this stuff because this doesn't sound fun to me at all. But I guess people like it. If I'm going to spend that kind of money on a place, I want to be at the Ritz-Carlton. I want to be at the whatever. But to each their own. I'm certainly not going to judge. I'm saying it's good for you, not for me. But they've literally run into that problem of when they go to a place that is an older place or things along those lines, and it's where they can stop for the night. They've
Mhm.
run into places that could not accommodate the size of their trailer. Not
So
not just
Yep.
not just the hookups and things like that, but actually the size of the trailer.
because they're
which,
towing the vehicle. When you add that to and there's a lot of
Correct.
parks that if
Right.
you go over the state parks and national parks, if you go over, I think it's 33 feet or something, or 30 feet. I don't even know the number. They won't even let you in. There's nothing that you can't drive
Right,
into them.
right,
They're very
right.
big.
Yeah,
So,
so the catching up of that, and I'll tell you, I actually got a taste of it between Christmas and New Year's. I rented an RV and took the family on a road trip, and I'll say it was a ton of fun. The RV we were in, it was like being in a house. It was fantastic, and
Did you have to level it?
no, it was a all-in-one.
Oh, okay.
Of itself, it expanded out. It doubled in size whenever we got
Got it.
wherever we got to. And it's funny, it doesn't take a big one to sleep like 100 people. Like they've got copies everywhere. It's insane. So we the one we rented says it was suitable for sleeping like 12 people. And I was like, no, there's no way. The four of us were like, okay, we could use a bigger one. But they're so luxurious. And it's especially, and you don't have to go up into the $250,000 price point anymore. In the $100,000 to $150,000 price point, they've got the facilities, the full facilities of a house. The plumbing feels like real plumbing. It has real pressure. The onboard water heater, the instant hot water heaters can actually handle you taking a regular shower, not like one of the.
Yeah, but you don't get that. You don't get that lap pool thing, right? Where it's a little thing and it has the jets where you can really do your laps and work out. You gotta go more for that. So.
And they have their RV cruises along with their boats and everything else. And a couple of that in their early 70s, and they're out while they're still active, and they have a fireplace in their RV. Okay,
Oh, yeah.
it's
So do my
and
in-laws.
they go up and they just went to Alaska for 3 months, and it's literally boom, stop, camp for a couple of weeks, whatever, and they call it camping. But and they have a
They
fireplace.
drove that thing up the West Coast Highway, huh?
They went everywhere with this thing. I mean, it's just
my in-laws did the exact same thing. Yeah,
They're super easy to drive. Like I'll tell you, I get it now, but I also I stayed at a really nice RV resort, and then I stayed at a campground.
Yeah.
There's a big difference.
Oh,
And
yeah.
and I know if I owned a $250,000 RV, I would not stay at a campground. I would want to stay at a resort.
And so these things, like I was saying,
Want to, but can you find one ever? How many are there?
Good Sam, I live in Florida, so the 95 corridor between
I'm sure 90. Yeah.
Between here and Myrtle Beach, there's like 700 RV parks in Orlando and Myrtle Beach.
But I mean the really high quality ones.
But go back to
dozen. Just on 95 because it's
but if you're going, let's say you're getting on I-10 or I-20 or something, can you do that, or is it just really isolated?
They're not as far apart as you think.
No,
there's
they're not.
There's a great organization that's like AAA called Good Sam, and they have one of the coolest road trip planning softwares I've ever seen. Lauren, I was telling you about this, and it not only gives you the ability to do point to point, but in between you could say, I'm looking for RV parks that are this, this, and this, and you can book them right in there, and then it moves your trip planning, and then you can actually say, hey, I want to go look at weird stuff, and it will pull up the giant ball of yarn and things like that that's on your route or within a certain deviation of your route. And it was awesome. And you can actually update it or upload it to an app on your phone. So it works in real time. It's giving you your directions, and it will make sure you do not get on a road that has a clearance issue to whatever vehicle you're driving. It will tell you where the easiest gas stations to pull in and out of are. It will tell you if a Burger King has a full pull through or if it's going to cause a problem. It was by far the best executed trip planning software I have ever seen.
And why haven't Best Western Choice and Wyndham?
Wait a second. I know the answer to this. Because we tried it. I actually built the first iteration of roadtrip.com and roadtraveler.com rather. Trip.com was actually supposed to be that at one point. And the answer is because most people don't want to go to an individual hotel company to do that. It unfortunately needs to be an OTA. They need variety. They need diversity of insight, and it sucks. And I mean, we all know Chicky Fitzgerald. She's been trying to do this for years. We built it. We had a really good road trip planner on for the time on most of our hotel websites when I worked for Ramada, Super 8 Days Inn, etc. It never got used. I mean, the use of it was minuscule. That's not what customers are looking for. Customers are looking for
Good Sam
road trip. The reason I did it was like the thing that made me pay the money to get access to the software was I wanted to make sure I wasn't going to get into a situation where I got this RV stuck. So that fear is what initially got me over the hump to want to use it because of the peace of mind. And then all the convenience of it made me just really appreciate it.
Right.
But that said,
and if you're somebody who's driving down the I-95 corridor because you're taking your kids to Disney, you might stay at one day's inn along the way, but you drive New York to Virginia.
Use it because of the peace of mind, and then all the convenience of it made me just really appreciate it.
Right.
But that said,
and if you're somebody who's driving down the I-95 corridor because you're taking your kids to Disney, you might stay at one day's inn along the way, but you drive New York to Virginia.
Use it because of the peace of mind, and then all the convenience of it made me just really appreciate it.
Right. Oh no! All right, so the book that comes out in the fall will not be called Speed of Digital. No, oh, that's funny. Yeah, but that's my little Brian doll. That's
there you go. You need to call that person and tell them the name of your book.
Oh, that's funny.
Have a good laugh because they nailed it. You're Brian Griffin.
Oh my God. Well, it could be worse. I could be Stu.
This is true.
That's Ed. No.
So nonetheless, I am trying to get the podcast out every 2 weeks now and trying to be consistent about it. But writing a book is sucking all of the words out of my brain. And
I will send you
nothing
of Brian writing the book.
That'd be great.
It will make you laugh.
That's awesome. That's fantastic.
Yeah. All right. Well, good luck on the book. I do have to run because I have a client call.
So Ed, where can they find you?
Flip.to. Tim, where can they find everything that's on the internet?
Google.com. But if you're looking for my stuff, you can go to timpeter.com. I am at TCPeter on Twitter. And Robert, where can they find you?
Robert K. Cole or rockjudah.com.
Fantastic.
And Mr. Gray.
Oh, at home with the rain outside. No, we're getting the weather coming through. No, at hospitalitydigitalmarketing.com/live. You can get this episode and all previous 192. And we will be also sending this out to all of the Facebook posts that we're going out, or Facebook Live ones that are going out, so that the links will be available. And gentlemen, if you don't mind, I'll be adding your links to that as I send that back out on their posts. They silly enoughly gave me access to all of their Facebook pages. So
I smell lookalike audiences.
Stewie takes over the world. So we will be putting posts for all those that participated in show notes as well, and links to replays and so forth back onto the Facebook pages. And again, next week we should have EU and all their chapters on board. Also, the North America is going to go live, and is also DC chapters will be going live. DC chapter. Central and South Florida, I'm hoping to hear back from them. If not, there'll be a rollover for the following week. So we're eventually going to have affiliations through a lot of the HSMAI chapters and globalizations. So
hey guys, have a good Friday.
Yeah, let's have a great rest of the Friday. Thank you, everyone. We will talk to everyone next week, 11:30 Eastern.
Got it, Robert.
I got it.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody.